again. Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
I had a dream. You can't think of the civil rights movement without this guy, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What a mouthful. He was the most beloved and hated man in America in the 1960s, from his involvement in the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 until his untimely death in 1968. King's message of change through peaceful means added to the movement's numbers and gave it its moral strength. Martin was raised in an activist family. His father was deeply influenced by the Reformationer Martin Luther and legally changed his and his son's name to Martin Luther King. As a child, Martin did well in school. He easily moved through the grade levels and entered Morehouse College, his father's alma mater, at the age of 15. What are you doing with your life? Next, he attended seminary, where he studied to be a pastor. And while he was pursuing his doctorate at Boston University, he met and married Coretta Scott. After receiving his PhD, in 1955, King accepted an appointment as a pastor of a Baptist church. King formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC, which is like CORE, SNCC, and the NAACP. It dedicated itself to the advancement of the rights of African Americans. In April 1963, Martin Luther King organized a protest in Birmingham, Alabama, a city he called the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. The SCLC led boycotts, sit-ins, and marches. And when Bull Connor, head of the Birmingham Police Department, used fire hoses and dogs on the demonstrators, millions saw these images and video on television. Martin Luther King was arrested, and while he was in jail, he wrote his famous letter from a Birmingham jailhouse. King gained support from around the nation and the world, and later in 1963, he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech to thousands in Washington, D.C. He said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character." After the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, King then turned his attention to registering African American voters in the South. He was there for the Selma March in Alabama. And during all these demonstrations King was a part of, he will be arrested time and time again. And since these demonstrations were non-violent, the public opinion weighed predominantly on the side of King and the protesters. Early in the morning of April 4th, 1968, King was in Memphis, Tennessee, at a hotel when he was shot and killed by James Earl Ray. When the news of his death spread, mourners unleashed their rage at the loss of their leader. There were riots in every major city in America, except Indianapolis, where Bobby Kennedy, the younger brother of JFK, was there, and he gave a beautiful speech to the distraught crowd. He was on the campaign trail running for president, and he most likely would have won if he himself was not assassinated a few weeks later. 1968, man, it was quite a year. But the world never will forget MLK's contributions. Time magazine named him Man of the Year in 1963, and in 1964 he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he was described as the first person in the Western world to have shown us that a struggle can be fought without violence. In 1977, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest award a civilian American can earn. In the 1980s, his birthday became a national holiday, creating an annual opportunity for Americans to reflect on the two values he dedicated his life to advancing: equality and nonviolence.
I got a dream.
One day,
We gonna work it out,
one day,
We gonna work it out,
one day,
We gonna work it
I
out.
have a dream.
I got a dream.
One day,
We gonna work it out,
one day,
We gonna work it out,
one day,
We gonna work
I
it out.
have a dream
I got a dream
that one day,
that one day I'ma look deeper than myself. I gotta find a
I
way.
have a dream.
My dream is to be free. My dream is to be. My dream is to be. My dream is to be free.
In search of brighter days, I ride through the maze of the madness. Struggle is my address where pain and crack lives. Gunshots coming from sounds of blackness. Given this game with no time to practice. Born on a blacklist. Told I'm below average. A life with no cabbage. That's no money if you from where I'm from.